Well, that's a lot of information. Let's get to this topic. There's already info on Iran and the agreement. We'll discuss it later. We don't have enough time in this live stream to analyze it properly. What's happening in Venezuela with Saab is intense. We'll discuss it later in another broadcast since we don't have enough time now. What's happening this time in the Vortex is surprising. In the end, let's see, I think we've said it here and we'll keep explaining it gladly so we can really understand how the polar vortex works. I mean, when more heat is generated in the environment, yes, the vortex in the atmosphere heats up and that vortex breaks, it weakens, and that causes it. Instead of the cold staying in the North Pole, the vortex breaks. So, interestingly, that extreme cold caused by a polar vortex is actually due to heat because the vortex breaks, and when it breaks, it starts to move forward. It moves toward the United States, Canada, Europe, or wherever the vortex goes. What's coming in the next 15 days in February is a warning that's being seen right now in the current climate models we have. In the coming days, there will be a significant stratospheric warming and this weakens the polar vortex. That's why we're watching this video here, where in the next 14 days, a weakening of the vortex will develop. It breaks apart and will possibly move toward the United States, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. In any case, the polar vortex being so weak will allow new intrusions coming from the Arctic area to mid-latitudes during February. So don't put away your San Marcos blankets, don't put away your, what do you call them, your jackets, right? And all that. Is the vortex not that strong? I'm already here, I'm already flying here, look at the video, there it is, but I have to adjust like this, there it is, no, there it is, awesome. Let's get into the details of what is known. Well, we won't get into the details of what is known, but yeah, this is really crazy. Certainly, Remorda in February 2026 may have been impacted by the vortex collapse. It's an atmospheric phenomenon that's obviously linked to cold and to polar fronts, according to reports, in the coming weeks due to a sudden stratospheric warming. It's known that a vortex is coming. This could be affected so that it might go toward Canada or toward Europe, right? I mean, it's not like they already know where the vortex is going to go. Well, no, that's something that can't be known. It's believed that it could come all the way to the United States, but it could also go toward Canada or, toward Europe, or even to both places, right? The models estimate where it's going, but they're not completely sure. What is certain is the vortex will likely occur, given the observed conditions. The consequences would be that suddenly, in the middle of February, we could have extraordinarily cold temperatures, which could come with snowfalls, with winds, with sleet, and so on. It could even reach Europe, right? I mean, we don't know, right? That's why we have to stay alert in the coming days. We'll keep you updated on how this phenomenon develops. Let's get into the details, shall we? What does National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration say? What does the United States National Weather Service say? This phenomenon raises the temperature in the stratosphere at an altitude of 30 to 50 kilometers. First, this is abrupt, and what is being observed is very intense. Climate models are projecting that severe cold waves are coming to the United States and Canada with snowstorms, ice, and below normal temperatures. This is going to last for weeks. I mean, it's not just cold today, tomorrow, and then by Monday everything's fine again, right? When a vortex arrives, it's usually 1 or 2 weeks of intense cold. That's why it's something we need to take into account, right? And it could also affect Mexico, he says. Even though it doesn't get the Arctic air directly, if it rises, does it still suffer the side effects? More frequent and intense cold fronts are expected, especially in the northern part and the highlands of Mexico, where there will also be a higher chance of more intense cold fronts. Similar events have caused these unusual occurrences in previous years. Suddenly, right in the middle of February, there's a very intense cold front. Do you remember? A few years ago, we discussed a major one, but in Mexico, no one mentions it. The video went viral on WhatsApp. I don't know who uploaded it, but people shared it like crazy. And then here in Monterrey, the meteorologist came out to deny what I said, to say it wasn't true, that it wasn't real. And 2 weeks later, boom, everything froze. Now that's right. I mean, it's not my forecast. I don't make up forecasts. Obviously, you check them. The University of Colorado checks it. They check it. I mean, we check different sources. And well, this has scientific backing and we talk about it, right? National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration was right at the time, and so was the University of Colorado. I remember I was there talking about that too, and well, they had no choice but to report it. Obviously, after saying it wasn't true, we talked about it. It's an anecdote that many here already know, right? But well, why? Because information has to be based on sources, not on what I want to happen or what others want to happen, but on information. This is especially important for people who work in transportation, for agriculture, for those in charge of electrical systems, and for planning day-to-day activities for people. Ecosystems can suffer damage from unexpected cold, especially if it lasts for 1 or 2 weeks. At the same time, well, we are facing a week and maybe a second week in February with events of intense solar storms. There is a spot right now in the area in the Arkansas zone 64366, and they say it's already the one. Yes. It's just over half the size of the spot that caused the Carrington event in 1859. It's not known if this spot will grow more or not, or if it's going to become more active or not, like the Carrington event. What we do know is that all these days, 1, 2, not the 3rd, then the 4th again, but there have been a lot of solar storms that will generate geomagnetic storms starting today, here on Earth, obviously. So starting today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and so on. There will possibly be auroras borealis appearing farther south than usual, and the classic effects of solar storms, right? Another separate point that will also be interesting to observe, and also the equipment. We'll say it, we'll mention it. Obviously, we're not going to other points. We're going to other important matters about what's happening in the world. Notice that North Korean soldiers are increasingly being observed over there at the border with South Korea. Sorry, between the border of Ukraine and the border of Russia, so far North Korean soldiers have not entered Ukraine. So you could say that the North Koreans, even though they are participating in the war, are doing so in a way that is, let's call it defensive for the Russians. Although there have been some incursions, let's say there hasn't been a massive incursion in this. In this report, what is revealed by Ukrainian intelligence is that North Korean troops have obviously participated actively from Russian territory, already launching attacks inside Ukrainian territory. This is very important because it would mean that officially a country, in this case North Korea, is already attacking another country. So, would this be included in the data in how this war is unfolding? Geopolitically speaking, a country that officially enters into war against another country? And could this justify Ukrainian attacks inside North Korea? So be careful with that. A report from Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate details North Korean military actions, including shelling, drone use, and coordinated rocket attacks. The Ukrainian Directorate reports North Korean activities such as shelling of Ukrainian rocket attacks from the Ukrainian border. This could constitute war crimes and the official involvement of another country. North Korean troops have been present since at least January 2016, operating together with Russian units to carry out cross-border offensives. North Korea is using the conflict as a training ground to enhance its unmanned technology and modern warfare skills. Around 3,000 North Korean soldiers have been deployed and then withdrawn to be used as instructors within the Korean People's Army, transferring real combat experience to other North Korean soldiers who will later be sent here to Ukraine. Rather now, Another issue, besides training, is that North Korean forces are being seen in the Sumy region, and yes, they are getting closer to this Ukrainian area. They're already right next to us. According to British intelligence, 50% of the North Korean soldiers who participated in the conflict have already lost their lives. Half of the North Koreans who have arrived have lost their lives. Second, they also report that within all this back and forth going on, let's say a move. A strategy that is changing on the part of Ukraine, in which in the coming months we will begin to observe Ukraine's new approach. It will be to eliminate as many Russian soldiers as possible in the war, because it had been a strategic issue about recovery, attacking armored vehicles, attacking certain military targets inside Russia, etc. The focus in the coming months will be more or less to have a target of 50,000 soldiers to eliminate 50,000 Russian soldiers per month. It's really tough to have to talk about this, but that's how wars are, right? Wars are really tough, aren't they? With the focus on precisely weakening the position and saying, well, to leave the Russian army obviously as weak as possible, the focus, which is a tremendous focus, he says. Ukraine aims to eliminate 50,000 Russian soldiers monthly under a new strategy before the upcoming talks with Russia and its international allies. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has made increasing Russian casualties on the battlefield a priority as new peace talks are being prepared. According to Ukrainian reports, around 35,000 Russian soldiers died last month and others were seriously wounded. No, his goal is to raise this to 50,000 per month. This instruction has already been given. The new Minister of Defense, Maki Mikhailo Federo, explains the task assigned by the president, which is to make the cost of war for Russia one that cannot be sustained. That's the idea, right? That it is no longer sustainable. The war, they say, can't continue because there are too many casualties. Because the families themselves, the people of Russia themselves, will also start to demand that this situation be stopped. I don't know if that strategy will work or not, but that it's a very intense, very strong strategy. Well, obviously it is. Now, there's an investigation going on into what's happening at the University Institute run by Vladimir Putin's daughter. According to AF, or is it F, which is correct? This agency that conducted the investigation claims that one of Putin's daughters is actively involved. For a curious old-fashioned topic that still works. The institute led by Putin's daughter turns birds into biodrones with cameras, solar panels, and neural control. In other words, there is research and preparation by Russian scientists led by Vladimir Putin's daughter, in which they develop spy pigeons, but at a more advanced level, pigeons with implanted brain chips to use them as a kind of spy biodrone. According to what the Medusa portal revealed today, February 4, 2026. Invasive neurotechnology is the development led by the Institute of Artificial Intelligence, directed by Katerina Tikhonova, daughter of President Vladimir Putin. The goal is to control birds through brain electrical stimulation. They stand out by having a head cable, a small backpack, a solar-powered battery, and a chest-mounted camera. What he has used has caused a stir among experts. One reason is animal ethics, and another is the level of espionage that is now possible using animals. Key figures include Mikhail Lebedev from Moscow State University and biologist Vasily Popkov, who has implanted chips in other animals. Funding through Nero Group totals at least $13 million since 2018, with $6.2 million in revenue in 2024 alone, according to Forbes. Although the company claims that the purpose is peaceful, it is known that these pigeons fly dozens of kilometers on inspection and rescue missions. Nero insists on its respect for animals, but it does not reveal how many pigeons have been used, nor what the exact mind control methods are. Does it reveal how many pigeons have been used, or what the exact methods are? harsh and biotechnologically advanced, that's also part of our times. So let's move on to the comments. Thank you so much, Anna, for that membership and the memberships you've given us, obviously for your constant support. Thank you so much, Anna Hughes. I send you a big greeting. In his respect for but it doesn't reveal how many pigeons have been used or the exact methods for the... Honestly, says Raciel, years ago I called it the air conditioning effect, says Raciel. What happens when a block of ice? Do you insist on your respect? But have pigeons been? What are the methods of insisting on your respect for, but not revealing how many pigeons there have been? What are the exact methods of... And the thing is, you couldn't see where it was going. If you want to negotiate and you don't want to make any changes, well, that's complicated. The only one who seemed willing keeps insisting no. He reveals how many pigeons have been used, what the methods are. He insists on his respect for, but he reveals pigeons, what are the exact methods. See you there soon. We'll start in a few minutes. Big hug. Hope everyone is well.